Tonight, we are turning our attention towards something you have carried your entire life without ever fully knowing. What is your heart actually doing in the hours you believe it is simply waiting for morning? Science has a different answer than most people expect. And that answer begins right here, with you, exactly as you are, in this quiet moment before sleep. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Wherever you are right now, perhaps already lying down, perhaps feeling the last of the day's tension beginning to release from your shoulders, allow yourself this particular kind of stillness. We will follow 100 relaxing facts about your heart during sleep. From the moment your heart rate begins its first gentle descent as you close your eyes, to the deep repair work happening inside your chest right now, to the quiet truth about why a night of real sleep may be the single most protective thing your heart has ever known. These gentle journeys through the science of the body create something rare, a space where learning and rest happen at the same time. A soft like, a quiet subscribe. Or sharing this with someone who needs rest tonight helps other tired minds find their way here too. For every person who discovers this kind of peace, another restless night becomes a little softer. That is the only reason any of this exists. Let yourself settle now. Feel your jaw loosen. Feel your hands go heavy. You do not need to remember any of what you are about to hear. You only need to let it pass through you, the way a quiet room absorbs sound without holding it, like the moment after the last guest leaves and the house finally exhales, still, unheld, and finally, only yours. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're resting where your chest holds its quietest rhythm. Let your mind settle with each beat. And now we begin. Your heart rate begins to fall within the first few minutes of falling asleep. Before you are even fully unconscious, your nervous system has already sent the signal slow down. The parasympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system, sometimes called the rest and digest system, begins to take over from the sympathetic branch that kept you alert and active throughout the day. Your heart, which may have been beating at 70 to 90 beats per minute during waking hours, starts a gradual descent. This is not failure. This is the beginning of something essential. The heart is not stopping. It is preparing. During non-REM sleep, heart rate typically drops to between 40 and 60 beats per minute. In people who exercise regularly or are physically fit, it may fall a little lower, sometimes into the high 40s or low 50s. What matters most is not the number itself, but whether the heart's rhythm remains steady and the body feels rested. The slower beat is not weakness. It is efficiency. Every beat during sleep must do the same amount of work with less metabolic cost, which is exactly what your body needs in order to repair. Blood pressure follows a similar path. During healthy sleep, blood pressure dips by roughly 10 to 20% compared to daytime levels. Researchers call this pattern dipping, and it is considered a marker of cardiovascular health. People whose blood pressure does not dip during sleep, a pattern called non-dipping, have been found in multiple large studies to carry a higher risk of cardiovascular events over time. Your sleeping body is not passive. It is actively regulating the pressure inside your vessels. giving your arterial walls a few hours of relative rest from the force they sustain all day. There is a specific window during deep sleep, the slow wave or N3 stage, when the cardiovascular system reaches its most protected state. During this phase, heart rate and blood pressure are at their lowest. The heart is beating slowly, the arteries are relaxed, and the workload on the entire system is minimal. This is the window in which the heart performs much of its cellular maintenance. It is brief, it is quiet, and for those who never reach it, because of stress or noise or fragmented rest, the benefits of that window are simply never collected. The autonomic nervous system does not just slow the heart during sleep, it actively shifts its balance. During waking hours, your sympathetic nervous system maintains a kind of low-level alert, keeping heart rate slightly elevated, vessels slightly constricted, the whole system primed for response. During sleep, that balance tips, parasympathetic tone increases. The vagus nerve, one of the longest nerves in the body, increases its influence over the heart, gently and continuously pressing the rate downward. The vagus nerve is, in a very real sense, the body's own sleep medicine for the heart. Vagal tone, the measure of how active and responsive the vagus nerve is, has become one of the most studied markers in modern cardiovascular research. Higher vagal tone is associated with lower resting heart rate, better heart rate variability, and reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. Sleep is one of the primary conditions under which vagal tone is strengthened. Each night of genuine, deep sleep essentially trains the vagus nerve to function better during the day. Rest is not recovery from the work. Rest is part of the work. Heart rate variability, often abbreviated as HRV, is the natural variation in time between heartbeats. It sounds minor, but it is one of the most sensitive indicators of cardiovascular health available without any invasive testing. A heart that beats with slight, natural variation between each beat is a heart whose nervous system is flexible and responsive. A heart that beats with perfectly mechanical regularity, without variation, is actually a warning sign of rigidity. During deep sleep, HRV typically rises, reflecting the increased parasympathetic activity and the heart's return to its most natural rhythm. Modern wearable technology has allowed researchers to track HRV during sleep at a scale that was not possible even 15 years ago. Studies using data from hundreds of thousands of wearers have confirmed that HRV is consistently highest during slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage, and that people who achieve more slow-wave sleep show higher average HRV across the night. This is not coincidence. Slow-wave sleep appears to be the specific condition under which the heart's regulatory systems are restored, cleaned, and recalibrated for the following day. The heart does not just slow during sleep, it also becomes more efficient. At rest, the heart's oxygen consumption drops significantly. The myocardium, the muscular wall of the heart, uses oxygen at a lower rate per beat during sleep than during waking activity. This means the coronary arteries, which supply the heart muscle with blood, experience reduced demand. They can, in a sense, catch up blood flows through them more freely. The arterial walls experience less shear stress. That turbulent force which accumulates against vessel walls with every waking hour. This nightly reduction in mechanical demand is one of the reasons regular, high-quality sleep is so consistently associated with lower rates of coronary artery disease. So what is your heart actually doing in the hours you believe it is simply waiting for morning? The first answer, emerging clearly from the first 10 facts of this journey, is this: it is stepping back from the edge. Every beat per minute that falls during sleep represents a reduction in the long-term wear on your cardiovascular system. The heart is not waiting. It is already working. Just differently, just quietly, just in the way that matters most. The lining of your arteries and veins, a layer called the endothelium, performs much of its repair work during sleep. The endothelium is extraordinarily thin, just one cell thick in most places, and yet it regulates the flexibility of your vessels, controls local blood flow, prevents clotting, and manages the exchange of nutrients into surrounding tissue. During sleep, particularly during deep non-REM sleep, endothelial cells are more actively engaged in repair processes, guided by growth, signals that circulate more freely when the body is at rest. One of the key growth signals involved in endothelial repair is nitric oxide. The endothelium produces nitric oxide continuously, and it plays a central role in keeping blood vessels relaxed and open. During sleep, nitric oxide production is well supported by the low-stress environment the body creates. Conversely, chronic sleep deprivation has been shown in laboratory studies to reduce endothelial nitric oxide production, which correlates with increased arterial stiffness. The vessels literally become less flexible when the nights become too short or too broken. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, follows a tightly controlled rhythm across the 24-hour day. It falls to its lowest point in the early hours of the night, during deep sleep, and begins rising again in the hours before waking. This low cortisol window is essential for the heart. Cortisol at high levels increases blood pressure, accelerates heart rate, promotes inflammation in arterial walls, and disrupts the repair signals that the sleeping heart depends on. When sleep is fragmented or cut short, cortisol remains elevated longer than it should, and the heart loses part of its protected window. Inflammation is now understood to be one of the central mechanisms underlying most forms of cardiovascular disease. Chronic, low-grade inflammation, invisible and painless, damages arterial walls over years, contributing to the buildup of plaques that eventually narrow or block blood flow. Sleep is one of the body's primary anti-inflammatory conditions. During deep sleep, levels of inflammatory markers, including interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, fall. The body uses the quiet of sleep to actively suppress the inflammatory processes that, left unchecked during waking hours, accumulate into long-term damage. C-reactive protein, often measured in blood tests as a general marker of inflammation, is consistently lower in people who sleep 7 to 9 hours per night compared to those who sleep fewer. This is not correlation without mechanism. The suppression of inflammatory signaling during sleep is an active, regulated process. The immune system and the cardiovascular system are far more deeply interconnected than older models suggested. The heart's health is, in part, an immune project, and sleep is the condition under which the immune system does its cardiovascular work. During REM sleep, the heart does something unexpected. Rather than continuing to slow, it becomes more variable. Heart rate during REM can rise and fall across a single REM cycle, sometimes approaching waking levels, sometimes dropping below them. This variability is associated with the intense neurological activity happening in the brain during REM. The vivid dreaming, the memory consolidation, the emotional processing. The heart and brain are in close conversation during REM, and the heart's variability appears to reflect the richness of that conversation. The relationship between REM sleep and emotional regulation is directly relevant to cardiovascular health. Research has shown that people who get sufficient REM sleep process emotionally stressful experiences more effectively the following day. They respond to frustrating situations with less acute cardiovascular activation, meaning their heart rate and blood pressure rise less sharply and return to baseline more quickly. REM sleep is not just rest for the mind. It is training for the heart's response to the stresses that will come. The morning hours carry a well-documented cardiovascular risk. In the 90 minutes after waking, blood pressure rises sharply, a heart rate accelerates, and clotting factors in the blood increase. This morning surge is a natural part of the body's preparation for daytime activity, driven by the cortisol rise that precedes waking. But it is also the period when heart attacks and strokes are statistically most common. Sleep, by preceding this window, determines how well the body manages it. People who sleep poorly show a more abrupt and extreme morning surge. Good sleep smooths the transition. During sleep, the kidneys also reduce their filtration rate, which contributes to the overall drop in blood pressure. Less fluid is filtered into urine, and the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which regulates blood volume and pressure, shifts into a lower activity state. This systemic coordination, heart, kidneys, blood vessels, hormones, all moving together toward a lower pressure state, is one of the more beautiful examples of physiological cooperation in the human body. No single organ is doing this alone. The whole system participates in the heart's nightly rest. Sleep also affects the coagulation system, the network of proteins and cells that controls blood clotting. During healthy sleep, certain clotting factors are suppressed slightly, reducing the tendency of the blood to clot spontaneously. This is another protective mechanism. Clots forming inside coronary arteries are the immediate cause of most heart attacks. The sleeping body reduces this risk. Sleep deprivation, by contrast, has been shown in multiple studies to increase platelet activation and fibrinogen levels, both of which contribute to clot formation. The blood itself becomes more protective when given the night it needs. The temperature of your body drops during sleep, and this cooling has a direct effect on the heart. Lower body temperature reduces metabolic demand, which allows the heart to work at a lower rate without compromising oxygen delivery to tissues. Core body temperature typically falls by about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit during sleep. This cooling is actively managed by the hypothalamus and supported by dilation of blood vessels near the surface of the skin, which releases heat. The warm feeling of sleepiness you experience as you lie down is partly this process, your body radiating heat outward in order to create the cooler core that sleep requires. Melatonin, the hormone released by the pineal gland in response to darkness, does more than signal sleep onset. It also has direct cardiovascular effects. Melatonin acts as a mild antioxidant in the cardiovascular system, reducing oxidative stress in arterial walls. It also has a mild blood pressure lowering effect. Research in recent years has identified melatonin receptors in the heart muscle itself, suggesting that the heart is a direct target of this sleep signal, not merely a passive beneficiary of the lower activity state that melatonin helps create. The heart is listening for the darkness. Sleep architecture. The pattern of cycling through light sleep, deep sleep, and REM across the night matters as much as total sleep duration for cardiovascular outcomes. A person who sleeps 8 hours but spends little time in slow-wave sleep receives fewer of the deep cardiovascular benefits than someone who sleeps 7 hours with robust cycling through all stages. This is one reason why alcohol, which suppresses slow-wave sleep despite initially making people drowsy, is associated with poorer cardiovascular outcomes despite its sedating effect. The number of hours is not the only variable. The quality of the architecture inside those hours matters deeply. The sinoatrial node, the heart's own pacemaker, is a small cluster of specialized cells in the upper right chamber of the heart. It generates the electrical impulses that trigger each heartbeat. The rate at which it fires is modulated continuously by the autonomic nervous system, by hormones, by temperature, and by blood chemistry. During sleep, all of these modulators shift together toward a slower, quieter rate. The sinoatrial node does not decide to slow down. It simply responds to the environment the sleeping body creates for it. You are the environment. Your sleep is the signal. And here, 25 facts into our quiet journey. The first shape of an answer is visible. Your heart during sleep is not simply beating more slowly. It is being actively protected, repaired, and recalibrated by a coordinated system that includes your nervous system, your hormones, your immune response, your kidneys, your blood chemistry, and even the temperature of the room you are lying in. The stillness of sleep is not absence. It is the condition under which the most important work your body does becomes possible. Every cell in your body knows how to sleep. This state has been repeated millions of times in the long history of the human body before you were born. Right now, your brain is sorting today, deciding what to keep, what can be released. You do not need to help. You do not need to direct it. It knows how. Your heart is already doing what it does every single night. You only need to let it. Now we continue. Obstructive sleep apnea, a condition in which the airway partially or fully collapses during sleep, is one of the most consequential intersections between sleep medicine and cardiology. During an apnea event, breathing stops. Oxygen levels in the blood fall. Carbon dioxide rises, and the brain sends an emergency signal to wake the body enough to restore the airway. Each of these events, which can happen dozens or even hundreds of times per night in severe cases, triggers a surge in sympathetic nervous system activity. Heart rate spikes. Blood pressure spikes. The protective low-pressure state of sleep is shattered. Repeatedly, through the night, people with untreated obstructive sleep apnea have significantly elevated rates of hypertension, atrial fibrillation, coronary artery disease, heart failure, and stroke compared to the general population. The mechanism is not mysterious. It is the accumulated cardiovascular stress of hundreds of emergency arousal events per night. Multiplied across years, what looks from the outside like a person sleeping is, at the physiological level, a cardiovascular system under repeated, brief, intense assault. Treatment of sleep apnea, particularly with continuous positive airway pressure therapy, has been shown to reduce blood pressure, improve heart rate variability, and in some studies to reduce the rate of cardiovascular events. Atrial fibrillation, a condition in which the upper chambers of the heart beat chaotically rather than in organized rhythm, has a striking relationship with sleep. Sleep apnea is one of the strongest modifiable risk factors for atrial fibrillation known. The repeated oxygen drops and pressure surges associated with apnea events appear to stretch and stress the atrial walls over time, disrupting the electrical pathways that coordinate their rhythm. People who successfully treat their sleep apnea show lower rates of atrial fibrillation recurrence after cardioversion, the procedure used to restore normal rhythm, even mild sleep restriction. Reducing sleep from 8 hours to 6 hours for just a few consecutive nights produces measurable changes in cardiovascular function. Blood pressure during the following day is slightly higher. Heart rate variability is slightly lower. Inflammatory markers are slightly elevated. None of these changes is catastrophic in isolation, but sleep restriction in modern life is not an occasional event. It is, for many people, a chronic condition sustained across years, and the accumulation of these small daily changes is what researchers believe drives the long-term association between short sleep and cardiovascular disease. A large meta-analysis drawing on data from nearly 500,000 participants across multiple countries found that sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night was associated with a 48% higher relative risk of developing or dying from coronary heart disease compared to those sleeping 7 to 8 hours. Sleeping more than 9 hours was also associated with elevated risk, though through different mechanisms, likely related to underlying illness. The lowest cardiovascular risk in large prospective studies consistently falls within the 7 to 9 hour range for adults. The heart has a preferred duration, and it remembers when it is denied one. The heart's repair processes during sleep are not passive drifting. They are directed by a complex signaling environment. Growth hormone, released in pulses during slow-wave sleep, promotes tissue repair throughout the body, including in cardiac muscle cells. The heart, like skeletal muscle, undergoes microscopic stress during daily activity, and growth hormone supports the cellular repair that keeps cardiac muscle healthy and elastic over decades. People who sleep poorly, and therefore have disrupted growth hormone release, show measurable differences in cardiac muscle health over long periods. Telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes, are one of the primary markers of cellular aging. Shorter telomeres are associated with greater risk of cardiovascular disease. Among other age-related conditions, sleep duration and quality have now been linked to telomere length in multiple independent studies. People who consistently sleep fewer than 6 hours show significantly shorter telomeres in cardiovascular relevant cell types, including endothelial cells and immune cells. Sleep is not just a rest state. It appears to be one of the conditions under which the biological aging of the cardiovascular system is either slowed or accelerated. The brain uses sleep as a clearing cycle, flushing metabolic waste through a network called the glymphatic system. Some researchers have proposed that the heart may have analogous local mechanisms during periods of low activity, processes that support cardiac tissue maintenance in ways similar to what sleep does for the brain. This is an area of active investigation, not yet established science. But the parallel is worth naming here. The idea that both the heart and the brain may use sleep as a clearing condition is one of the more compelling emerging directions in cardiovascular sleep research. The gut microbiome, the community of microorganisms living in the digestive tract, influences cardiovascular health through multiple pathways, including the production of compounds that affect arterial inflammation and through direct neural signaling via the gut-brain axis. Research has identified connections between sleep quality and microbiome composition. Poor sleep alters the microbiome in ways that increase cardiovascular relevant inflammation, while certain microbiome profiles appear associated with better sleep architecture. The heart, the gut, and the brain are in a three-way conversation that sleep either supports or disrupts. Circadian rhythms, the roughly 24-hour internal clocks that govern timing of physiological processes, are important for cardiovascular health. The heart itself contains clock genes, the molecular timekeepers built into the heart's own cells, that regulate the timing of its repair and function. These cardiac clock genes are synchronized with the central clock in the brain by light exposure and sleep timing. Shift workers, whose sleep and waking times are misaligned with natural light cycles, show significantly higher rates of cardiovascular disease, heart attack, and stroke. Even after controlling for other lifestyle factors, the heart does not just need sleep, it needs sleep at the right time. Sleep timing, independent of sleep duration, influences cardiovascular outcomes. A large study using wearable actigraphy data from over 88,000 participants in the UK Biobank found that sleep onset between 10 and 11 in the evening was associated with the lowest cardiovascular risk compared to those who fell asleep earlier or later. The hypothesis is that this window aligns best with the natural light-dark cycle and allows the body's cardiac clock genes to complete their most important functions. The heart has a preferred hour. Going to sleep consistently within it appears to matter. Social yetlog. The misalignment between biological sleep timing on work days versus free days has been linked in multiple studies to higher rates of metabolic disruption, elevated blood pressure, and cardiovascular risk markers. Someone who sleeps from midnight to 8 on weekends but rises at 6 on workdays is chronically misaligning their cardiovascular system's internal clock. The heart's clock, repeatedly shifted out of alignment across months and years, accumulates a kind of temporal stress that appears to age the cardiovascular system faster than its biological programming intends. During sleep, the body redistributes blood flow in ways that serve specific maintenance functions. Blood flow to the skin increases, supporting skin repair and temperature regulation. Blood flow to the digestive system is reduced as digestive activity slows. Flow to the kidneys shifts in the ways described earlier. And within the heart itself, coronary blood flow patterns change, with some research suggesting that the distribution of flow through the coronary tree during sleep may support preferential repair of areas that experience the greatest mechanical stress during waking activity. Sleep is not an equal stillness. It is a targeted one. Dreams, which occur primarily during REM sleep, have a cardiovascular signature that researchers have only recently begun to map in detail. Emotional dream content, particularly dreams involving fear, conflict, or intense positive experience, produces detectable changes in heart rate and blood pressure that are distinguishable from the quieter patterns of non-REM sleep. Some researchers have proposed that the heart's response to dream state emotions may serve a kind of rehearsal function, allowing the cardiovascular system to practice emotional reactivity in a lower stakes neurological environment. This remains an emerging hypothesis, worth holding gently, not yet a settled finding. Halfway through these 40 facts, the picture of the heart during sleep has expanded considerably from where it began. We started with a slower beat and a lower pressure. We have arrived at a system in which timing, inflammation, hormone release, telomere maintenance, microbiome communication, and circadian clock alignment are all woven into the story of what your heart does while you rest. The answer to tonight's central question is already far richer than most people imagine. And we are only halfway there. You're still here, still listening. Somewhere between thinking and resting, take one slow breath. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do tonight, and so is your heart. We'll keep going together. Gently. Chronic stress has a well-documented relationship with both poor sleep and cardiovascular disease. But the direction of causation runs in multiple directions. Stress disrupts sleep. Poor sleep amplifies the stress response the following day. Elevated stress hormones damage the cardiovascular system, and damaged cardiovascular function contributes to fatigue and mood disruption that worsen sleep further. The heart, the stress response, and sleep form a triangle in which each side influences the other two. Improving sleep, even modestly, appears to interrupt this cycle in ways that benefit all three. The parasympathetic nervous system, which governs the heart's quieting during sleep, is trainable. Practices that strengthen parasympathetic tone, including slow, diaphragmatic breathing, meditation, and regular aerobic exercise have been shown to produce measurable improvements in nocturnal heart rate and HRV. This means that the quality of your heart's sleep behavior is not simply fixed. It responds to how you live during the hours you are awake. The heart you bring into sleep tonight was shaped, in part, by this afternoon. Exercise timing influences cardiac sleep physiology in ways that are only beginning to be well understood. Vigorous exercise within 2 to 3 hours of sleep onset can delay sleep onset and reduce slow-wave sleep in some individuals. By keeping core body temperature and sympathetic tone elevated, moderate exercise completed earlier in the day, however, has been consistently shown to improve slow-wave sleep duration and to enhance the nocturnal dip in blood pressure. The heart benefits from exercise, and the heart benefits from well-timed exercise more than from exercise that fragments the sleep it depends on. Napping has a layered relationship with nocturnal cardiovascular sleep physiology. Short naps, typically under 30 minutes, appear to provide some of the cardiovascular benefits associated with lighter sleep stages without significantly disrupting nighttime sleep architecture. Naps under 30 minutes appear most clearly linked to rest benefit. Longer naps may disrupt nighttime sleep architecture and do not carry the same protective signal. What seems clear is that brief daytime rest, when it does not compromise nighttime sleep, does not appear to harm the heart's nocturnal recovery. The association between sleep duration and heart failure is one of the stronger links in cardiovascular sleep research. People who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night have been found in large prospective studies to have significantly elevated risk of developing heart failure over follow-up periods of 10 years or more. Heart failure is a condition in which the heart muscle weakens over time and can no longer pump blood effectively enough to meet the body's needs. The mechanisms linking short sleep to heart failure include the same inflammatory, hormonal, and endothelial pathways described throughout this journey. Compounding over years, cardiac biomarkers, proteins released into the bloodstream when the heart muscle is under stress or experiencing damage, show measurable elevation after periods of sleep deprivation in laboratory studies. Troponin, the protein most commonly measured in emergency medicine to detect heart attack, rises slightly but detectably in healthy young adults after extended sleep restriction. This does not mean that sleep loss causes heart attack in healthy people, but it suggests that even brief periods of inadequate sleep create measurable cardiac stress, which, extended over years, may contribute to cumulative damage that takes decades to manifest. The relationship between sleep and blood pressure is one of the most clinically actionable findings in sleep medicine. Treatment of sleep apnea consistently lowers blood pressure in hypertensive patients, sometimes by amounts comparable to adding a second antihypertensive medication. Improving sleep duration and quality in people with borderline hypertension has been shown in multiple studies to reduce daytime blood pressure without pharmacological intervention. Sleep is not an adjunct to cardiovascular care. It is, for many people, one of the most meaningful cardiovascular interventions available. The heart communicates upward to the brain, as well as receiving signals downward from it. Baroreceptors, pressure-sensing receptors in the aorta and carotid arteries, send continuous information about blood pressure to the brainstem, which uses that information to regulate autonomic tone. During sleep, this feedback loop operates differently than during waking. The brainstem becomes less reactive to baroreceptor signals, allowing blood pressure to fall without triggering compensatory increases. This reduced reactivity is another of the sleep-specific conditions that allows the cardiovascular dip to occur and to be sustained through the night. Women's cardiovascular sleep physiology differs from men's in several ways that research is only recently beginning to document fully. Women show different patterns of HRV during sleep across the menstrual cycle. Menopause is associated with changes in nocturnal blood pressure dipping, sleep architecture disruption, and increased risk of sleep apnea, all of which compound the cardiovascular risk that rises after menopause. Pregnancy produces dramatic changes in cardiac output, blood volume, and sleep architecture simultaneously. The cardiovascular sleep story is not a single story. It is a story that changes across the human lifespan, differently for different bodies. Halfway through 100 facts about your heart during sleep. The central question has not been answered yet in its full depth, but it has changed shape. We began by asking what the heart does while you sleep. We are arriving at a different understanding. The heart does not have a sleep mode. It has a repair mode, a recalibration mode, a protection mode. Sleep is the only condition under which all of these modes can operate simultaneously, undisturbed by the demands of waking life. The question was never what happens to your heart when you sleep. The question is what happens to your heart when you do not. Every cell you have today will be completely replaced within the next 7 years. You are in the middle of a continuous renewal, and tonight is part of that process. There is nothing you need to hold on to. The body is already rewriting itself toward tomorrow. Your heart is part of that rewriting. It does not need your permission. It only needs the quiet you are already giving it. Now we continue. The heart is not simply a pump. It is also an endocrine organ. It produces and releases hormones of its own, including a peptide called brain natriuretic peptide and another called atrial natriuretic peptide. These peptides help regulate blood volume and blood pressure, and their release is influenced by the mechanical load on the heart. During sleep, as preload and afterload decrease, the release of these cardiac peptides adjusts accordingly. The heart is constantly monitoring and reporting on its own condition. Even through the night, it is never entirely passive. The right and left ventricles of the heart do not work identically during sleep. The right ventricle, which pumps blood to the lungs, shows different patterns of workload adjustment across sleep stages than the left ventricle, which pumps blood to the rest of the body during REM sleep. In particular, changes in breathing pattern and autonomic activity affect the two sides of the heart differently, creating brief periods of asymmetry that resolve as each REM episode ends. The heart is not a single unit operating uniformly through the night. It is two chambers in a continuous dialogue. The coronary arteries, which supply blood to the heart muscle itself, undergo their own repair processes during sleep. Endothelial cells lining the coronary arteries repair microscopic damage sustained during the mechanical stress of daytime activity. The lower heart rate during sleep means that coronary blood flow is less turbulent than during waking hours, and the arterial walls experience less of the physical strain that accumulates across the day. For people with early coronary artery disease, this nightly reduction in stress may be one of the mechanisms by which good sleep slows the progression of atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis, the gradual narrowing and hardening of arteries through the buildup of fatty plaques, is fundamentally an inflammatory disease. And inflammation is, as this journey has established, one of the primary targets of the body's sleep state regulatory systems. Each night of deep, complete sleep is not a cure for atherosclerosis, but it is a consistent, repeated application of the body's most powerful anti-inflammatory conditions to the very tissue in which atherosclerotic disease develops. Sleep does not reverse the plaques, but it slows the rate at which new damage is added to them. The lymph nodes surrounding the heart and major vessels are active during sleep. Lymph drainage from the cardiac region continues through the night, clearing metabolic waste and supporting the immune surveillance of the tissue. This is a relatively understudied area of cardiovascular sleep science, but the principle is consistent with what is known more broadly about sleep as a clearing state, rather than simply a quiet one. The body uses the stillness of sleep to move things out, as well as to build things up. Postural changes during sleep affect cardiac physiology in ways that are clinically relevant. When you lie down, venous return to the heart increases as gravity no longer works against the return of blood from the lower body. This increases preload, the volume of blood filling the heart before each contraction. In healthy hearts, this is easily accommodated. In hearts weakened by failure, lying flat can cause fluid accumulation in the lungs. One of the reasons people with advanced heart failure often sleep in a semi-upright position. The angle of your body during sleep is not incidental. It is part of how the heart experiences those hours. Sleep position also influences upper airway mechanics, which in turn affects cardiac function. Side sleeping reduces the tendency of the airway to collapse during sleep compared to back sleeping, which is why side sleeping is frequently recommended for people with obstructive sleep apnea. The position of the body during sleep is therefore not simply a matter of comfort, it is a cardiovascular variable, with real downstream consequences for how well the heart is protected through the night. The kidneys and the heart maintain a relationship so intertwined that cardiologists and nephrologists now speak of a cardiorenal syndrome to describe how each organ's dysfunction accelerates the other's decline. During sleep, as both cardiac and renal workload decreases, the interface between these two systems reaches a kind of equilibrium that is difficult to achieve during waking hours. The kidney's reduced filtration rate during sleep is not just a consequence of the heart slowing, it is a coordinated response that benefits both organs simultaneously. The body, during sleep, is managing a partnership. Recent research has identified a protein called hypocretin, also known as orexin, as a key regulator of both sleep-wake transitions and cardiovascular function. Hypocretin neurons in the hypothalamus fire during waking and promote arousal, and they also directly stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, raising heart rate and blood pressure. During sleep, hypocretin activity falls, and with it, the sympathetic drive to the cardiovascular system, loss of hypercretin neurons, which is the underlying cause of the sleep disorder narcolepsy, has been associated with altered cardiovascular autonomic regulation, confirming that the wake-promoting system and the cardiovascular activation system are deeply intertwined. The heart does not experience all nights equally. Emotional events during the preceding day, unresolved conflict, grief, intense joy, prolonged anxiety, all leave traces in the autonomic nervous system's calibration that persist into the night. HRV during the first sleep cycles after an emotionally difficult day is often lower than on emotionally neutral days. The heart brings the day to bed. What happens during waking hours is not separate from what happens during sleep. They are one continuous physiological story, folded at midnight and unfolded again at dawn. The relationship between depression and cardiovascular health runs through sleep as one of its central pathways. Depression frequently disrupts sleep architecture, reducing slow-wave sleep, fragmenting REM, and causing early morning awakening. This disrupted sleep, sustained over months or years, contributes to the elevated cardiovascular risk associated with depression through the inflammatory, autonomic, and endocrine mechanisms described throughout this journey. Treating sleep disruption in depressed individuals as a component of mental health treatment has been shown to independently improve both mood outcomes and cardiovascular biomarkers. The mind, the heart, and the night are not separate territories. Loneliness, increasingly recognized as a public health concern, has been found to disrupt sleep architecture in ways that parallel those seen in depression and chronic stress. People who report greater loneliness show more fragmented sleep, less slow-wave sleep, and higher rates of nocturnal autonomic arousal. The cardiovascular consequences of loneliness-related sleep disruption add to the direct cardiovascular effects of social isolation. The heart, it turns out, is social. It sleeps better in the context of connection and belonging, even in the absence of another person physically present. The first hours of sleep each night are dominated by slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage. This is when growth hormone peaks, when blood pressure dips most deeply, when HRV rises most reliably. This concentration of protective cardiovascular events in the early part of the night is one reason that going to bed consistently at the same time matters as much as total sleep duration. Delayed sleep onset, whether from late light exposure, late screen use, anxiety, or irregular schedule, delays the entry into this most protective phase. The heart's best hours occur early. What delays the beginning delays the benefit. The final hours of sleep before natural waking are dominated by REM sleep, which, as described earlier, is a more cardiovascularly active state. This means that the sequence of sleep architecture across the night mirrors a kind of narrative, protective, deep repair in the first half, emotional and memory processing in the second half, and then the gradual rise toward waking. Cutting the night short at either end removes different things. Cutting the beginning removes slow-wave repair. Cutting the end removes REM processing. A complete night of sleep is a complete biological program, and the heart participates in every chapter. We now understand that the heart during sleep is operating within a system of extraordinary coordination. The autonomic nervous system, the endocrine system, the immune system, the renal system, the circadian system, and the central nervous system are all converging on a single purpose during these hours to protect, repair, and recalibrate the cardiovascular system for the demands of the following day. What we call sleep is, for the heart, not a pause. It is a program. Caffeine, the most widely consumed psychoactive substance in the world, affects cardiovascular sleep physiology in ways that persist longer than most people realize. Caffeine has a half-life of approximately 5 to 7 hours in most adults, meaning that a cup of coffee consumed at 2 in the afternoon still has half its concentration in the bloodstream at 9 in the evening. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain. Adenosine is the primary sleep pressure chemical, and it also has cardiovascular relaxing effects. By blocking these receptors, caffeine delays sleep onset, reduces slow-wave sleep duration, and blunts the nocturnal dip in heart rate and blood pressure. Alcohol is commonly used as a sleep aid, and it does accelerate sleep onset, but its effects on sleep architecture are the opposite of helpful for the heart. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep in the first half of the night and causes a rebound of lighter, more fragmented sleep in the second half. It also disrupts the nocturnal dip in blood pressure, worsens breathing during sleep in people prone to snoring or apnea, and increases heart rate variability in an unhealthy direction. Reflecting sympathetic rebound as the alcohol is metabolized, the sleep alcohol produces is not the sleep the heart needs. Room temperature has a measurable effect on cardiovascular sleep physiology. A slightly cooler sleep environment, typically between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, supports the core body temperature drop that enables deep sleep. In a too warm room, the body struggles to achieve the skin vasodilation needed to release heat, which delays or disrupts slow-wave sleep. A too cold room triggers vasoconstriction and mild sympathetic activation. The cardiovascular system is sensitive to the temperature of the space it sleeps in. The room you choose is part of how well your heart recovers through the night. Sound during sleep, even at levels that do not cause full awakening, has been shown to affect nocturnal blood pressure and heart rate. Noise exposures of 45 decibels or more, roughly equivalent to a quiet conversation, produce measurable elevations in nocturnal heart rate and blood pressure in sleeping adults in laboratory studies. Traffic noise, aircraft noise, and environmental sound in urban areas have been specifically studied and found to affect cardiovascular physiology during sleep, even without conscious awareness of the disruption. The heart is listening, even when the mind is not. Light exposure during the hours of sleep, particularly blue spectrum light, suppresses melatonin production and activates the circadian alerting signal. Even low levels of light during sleep, a phone screen across the room, a street light through inadequate curtains, increase nocturnal sympathetic tone and reduce the depth and duration of slow-wave sleep. The cardiovascular consequences of ambient light during sleep. extended across years, are likely more significant than is yet fully appreciated. Darkness, for the heart, is not merely absence of light. It is a signal the cardiovascular system depends on. Sleep and the immune system are so tightly coupled that a single night of poor sleep measurably suppresses natural killer cell activity the following day. Natural killer cells are part of the immune system's surveillance network, identifying and responding to cells that have undergone early damaging transformation or viral infection. Their role in cardiovascular disease is indirect, but real. The inflammation that damages arterial walls is, in part, a failure of immune regulation. Sleep is not just rest for the heart. It is rest for the immune system that protects the heart. The phenomenon of sleep debt, the cumulative physiological deficit created by sleeping fewer hours than the body requires over multiple nights, is not simply resolved by a single long recovery sleep. Cardiovascular biomarkers that are elevated during sleep restriction can begin to normalize after recovery sleep. But some changes in HRV, endothelial function, and inflammatory tone appear to require multiple nights of adequate sleep before they return to baseline. The heart's recovery from sleep debt is a process, not a single event. One long weekend sleep after a week of 6-hour nights does not balance the ledger. Certain medications, including beta blockers, antihistamines, and some antidepressants, alter cardiac physiology during sleep in ways that are often not fully discussed in clinical settings. Beta blockers, for example, reduce heart rate both during the day and during sleep, which can suppress the normal nocturnal variation in HRV. Some antidepressants suppress REM sleep. Antihistamines cause sedation that may not produce the same slow-wave sleep as natural sleep. The intersection of pharmacology and sleep cardiology is an area where medical knowledge is still developing, and where many people are navigating their nights without full information. Pregnancy changes the heart during sleep in ways that are among the most dramatic in human physiology outside of disease. Blood volume increases by up to 50% during pregnancy. The heart enlarges slightly to accommodate this. Cardiac output increases, and the sleeping position that was comfortable before pregnancy may begin to affect venous return to the heart as the uterus grows. Late pregnancy commonly disrupts sleep architecture, reducing slow-wave sleep and increasing nighttime awakenings. The cardiovascular demands of pregnancy make good sleep during gestation particularly important and crucial. Simultaneously, particularly difficult to achieve. The heart, it is now clear, does not simply endure sleep. It requires sleep the way it requires oxygen and blood flow as a non-negotiable condition of its own survival and function. The answer to tonight's central question has crystallized. What is your heart actually doing? In the hours you believe it is simply waiting for morning, it is doing the most important thing it will do in any 24-hour period. It is repairing the damage of the day. It is preparing for the demands of tomorrow. And it is doing so in a way that requires your complete, sustained, undisturbed surrender to rest. Sleep does not come when you try to sleep. It comes when you stop trying. This is exactly that moment. Your heart does not need your attention now. It knows what to do. It has always known. Every night of your life, it has found its way to this slower, quieter place without your help. Trust it. Tonight. Let go. We are almost there now. Your heart tonight is beating at perhaps 55 beats per minute. It will sustain this pace for hours, quietly, faithfully, without asking anything of you. The endothelium, that single-cell lining of your vessels, is repairing itself right now, molecule by molecule. No instruction required, no effort on your part. The nocturnal dip in blood pressure, the 10 to 20% fall that cardiologists look for as a sign of cardiovascular health, is occurring in your body right now. Your arterial walls are resting. Growth hormone, released in its largest pulse of the day during deep sleep, is circulating through your body. Some of it will reach your heart. Some of it is already there, supporting the work of cellular repair in your cardiac muscle. Inflammation, the quiet process that accumulates in arterial walls over years, is being suppressed right now by the conditions your sleeping body has created. For these hours, that process is quieter. The walls are safer. The sinoatrial node, your heart's own pacemaker, is sending its quiet electrical signal across the cardiac muscle 60 times a minute or fewer. Patient, reliable. It has done this every second of your life, without pause. Heart rate variability is rising now. The intervals between your heartbeats are becoming more naturally varied. This is a good sign. It means your nervous system is flexible. It means your heart is responsive. It means rest is working. The vagus nerve is active in ways it cannot be during waking hours. It is pressing gently downward on your heart rate, steadily, continuously. The longest nerve in the body, devoted in part to this simple act of slowing you down. The coronary arteries, carrying blood to your heart muscle, are experiencing less turbulence tonight, less of the physical strain that accumulates during waking hours. They will carry you forward tomorrow, a little better than they would have without tonight. Melatonin is in your bloodstream. The pineal gland is releasing it in response to darkness. And somewhere in your heart, in the melatonin receptors within the cardiac tissue, the signal is being received. The heart is listening to the night. Your blood pressure will rise again in the early hours of morning. Your cortisol will climb. Your heart rate will ascend back toward waking levels. But not yet. For now, the low-pressure state holds, and the heart is grateful for every moment of it. The kidneys, in their coordination with the heart, have slowed their filtration. The renin-angiotensin system is quiet. Blood volume is being managed at rest. Two organs, in a long partnership, taking the night off from their most effortful work together. In the deep layers of your arterial walls, endothelial nitric oxide is keeping the vessels relaxed and open. The conditions of sleep allow this chemistry to prevail. During the day, stress and activity create competing signals. At night, the vessels can simply be themselves. If you are in REM sleep right now, your heart is in a more variable state. Heart rate moving gently up and down. Your brain is dreaming, perhaps, and the heart is following the story. This too is part of what the heart needs, not just stillness, but the full range of the night's experience. So what really happens to your heart when you sleep? By now the answer has been given in dozens of ways. The heart repairs. The heart rests. The heart is protected from inflammation, stress hormones, and vascular damage. It recalibrates its rhythm. It trains its own nervous system. It participates in a nightly program that no other condition can replicate. Sleep is not the background of the heart's story. Sleep may be its most essential chapter. The people who understand this most clearly are often those who have experienced cardiac events and then been told by their cardiologists, for the first time, how central sleep was to their recovery. Cardiac rehabilitation programs are increasingly incorporating sleep assessment and sleep improvement as formal components of post-event care. Sleep is not an afterthought in heart health. It is a pillar, as primary as diet and movement. A heart that has been given decades of good sleep is measurably different from one that has not. It tends to have better endothelial function, more flexible vessels, lower resting blood pressure, higher HRV, and less cumulative inflammatory damage in its arterial walls. Good sleep does not guarantee a healthy heart, but it tilts the odds consistently and meaningfully across an entire lifespan. The heart you have tonight is not only the heart you were born with, it is the heart shaped by every night of sleep or sleeplessness across your life. Every night you rested well was a quiet gift to this muscle. And every night ahead of you is another opportunity for that gift to be given again. There is something tender in this. The heart works without stopping. Every second of your life, asleep or awake, it has kept its rhythm. And the only thing it has ever asked of you in return is the permission to slow down, the space to repair, the darkness in which to do its most important work. You are giving it that tonight, right now, in this quiet, in this slowness, in the weight that is settling through your body. The heart knows it is already working, and it requires nothing more from you than what you are already doing. The science of the sleeping heart, which began with a few measurements of heart rate and blood pressure, has expanded over decades into a picture of extraordinary complexity and coordination. And at the center of that picture is something very simple. The heart needs the night, not as a pause from living, as a condition of it. You have carried your heart every day of your life without thinking about it. It has asked nothing and given everything. Tonight, the best thing you can offer it is exactly this: stillness, darkness, time. The last few beats per minute of wakefulness are fading now. Somewhere between here and sleep, the heart will find its slowest pace of the night. It will settle into the rhythm that asks the least and restores the most. This is the moment it has been moving toward all day. Sleep is not what happens after the day is over. Sleep is what makes the next day possible. For the heart, this is not metaphor. It is physiology. Every diastolic pause, every slow wave repair signal, every rise in HRV, every fall in inflammatory tone, is building toward the morning when the heart will accelerate again. Ready, because it was given the night to be ready. Your heart does not rest when you sleep. It recovers. And that recovery is the most important work it will ever do. That is what really happens to your heart when you sleep. It comes home, and so our quiet journey through the sleeping heart comes gently to its close. We began with something you already knew, but had never quite examined: the soft, settling feeling in your chest as you lie down in the dark and the beats grow quieter. We discovered that this quieting is not simple. It is the first movement of a program of extraordinary coordination, as intricate as anything the heart does during the brightest, most demanding hours of the day. We traveled through the dipping of blood pressure and the rise of heart rate variability, through the repair work of the endothelium, through the role of the vagus nerve and melatonin and growth hormone, through the inflammation that sleep suppresses and the cellular aging that sleep slows. And we arrived at fact 100, where facts always arrive, not at a conclusion, but at a feeling. The heart comes home when you sleep. It has been finding its way back to this moment every night of your life. What does that mean for everything else in your life that appears to be resting, but is in fact quietly repairing itself in the spaces you have not thought to look? That question is worth sleeping on. The same forces that govern the health of galaxies and forests and the deep ocean also govern the chambers of your heart. The same imperative toward restoration, toward cycles of effort and recovery, toward the repair that only stillness makes possible. You belong to that imperative tonight. Your heart is not separate from the rest of what the universe does in the dark. It is part of it. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about unity, the unity of every cell in your heart, beating in sequence, never out of order, never without purpose. Even now, even as you rest, think about the depth that your particular kind of mind has been searching for all day. The quiet that existed before this moment and will exist after it. Patient and unhurried, needing nothing from you. Let your entire being dissolve into the quiet that your particular kind of mind was always built for. The place where the day releases its hold, where the heart is finally allowed to do what it has always known how to do. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If these quiet hours, with the science of your sleeping heart, brought you a little closer to rest tonight, perhaps pass it along to someone who needs the same. A gentle share for another tired person searching for the way here. That is the only kind of growth this space asks for. Your heart is still repairing itself right now. Without your effort, without your witness, you do not need to hold any of this. It was never yours to carry. You have traveled inward tonight. Through the quietest corridors, most people never pause to notice. You touched the inner architecture of something that has never once stopped for you. And you found it? Perhaps more tender and more faithful than you knew. You can allow these thoughts of the heart to fade now, like the last warmth in a room after the lights have been turned off. Not gone, simply no longer needing to be held, leaving only the soft, unheld calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body grow heavier now. Something patient and very old has settled around you. It is simply holding you. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way the heart's own rhythm carries you. Not rushing, Not asking, simply arriving into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, your heart will still be there, still beating, still becoming. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, gentle explorer, and remember, your heart has kept its promise every single night. Good night.